just wanted to quickly brief you before you listen to this Podbite. There are a few points in this audio where I do get a bit excited and the audio spikes a touch. Not too much, just wanted to make you aware that that is something that happens in this clip. But otherwise, I really hope you enjoy this one. Bit controversial, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think about this Podbite? I had a thought, and I thought I'd just come on here to share. Why is there so much enmity between Black Americans and Africans? Where does that come from? Now, let me tell you where I'm thinking about this from. I was on Twitter a while back, and I had seen a comment a South African girl had made about how embarrassing it was for Black Americans to not have a home language. Like, how can they be speaking English just in their home like that? How embarrassing. The Black Americans then responded on Twitter. Some people started to respond, and they started saying things like, at least we have running water, at least we have constant electricity, at least we don't live in huts, things like that. And then it's kind of sparked this debate, argument, fight between African Twitter and Black American Twitter, Black Twitter. And it made me think, because the comments were getting more and more vile, more and more, just very inappropriate, really. Very stuff that you say that's intended to inspire hatred, really. It did get quite heated at some point. And it made me think, I was like, why is there so much enmity between Black Americans and Africans? Because, let me tell you why I'm asking this question. We have this perception that we live in this kind of Pan-African utopia, where all Black people look at each other and are like, yes, my brother, my sister, we're together. Black Lives Matter, the Pan-African spirit. I think that's a fairy tale. I don't think that's the truth. I think there's layers to how each group views the other group. I think I can understand the perspectives of both sides, and it makes it difficult. On one hand, when you look at Black Americans, they have a very, very, very difficult history. Here are people who are the descendants of slaves, mostly the descendants of slaves, who were brought to the Americas, who were robbed of dignity, voices silenced, autonomy who completely had their whole history removed, and who over a period of hundreds of years gained their independence, had to still go through discrimination, Jim Crow, the civil rights movements, police brutality, crack epidemic, and countless other things to get to the position that they are in now. And yet still they are one of the most influential groups of people on the planet. Black Americans influence so much of pop culture, and some of our mannerisms and speech vernacular and things comes from Black Americans. On the other hand, we have Africans who have a rich history, rich culture, rich sense of heritage, who also has a difficult history. But let me make it very plain and clear for people. Our history did not begin and end with colonization. Our history did not begin and end when white people came and found us, in air quotations. No. But I'm using these points of struggles because that's often the point of comparison. There's this fight, who had it harder? We like to play Struggle Olympics. I think from the Black American perspective, they feel abandoned by Africans through the events of slavery, and depending on how much you know about some of the events of slavery and how things went down, being sold out by your own people, or that rhetoric of I've been sold out by my own people, is very, very strong amongst certain people. On the other side, a lot of Africans unfortunately look at the negative image that Black people may have in the eyes of certain other racial groups, and some of that blame is pushed onto Black Americans for being to this, to that. You guys created this problem. If you guys weren't so bush or ratchet or whatever. So there's contention on both sides, and it's very, very difficult for either group to see the other clearly. Is this a problem that you can solve? I like to think you can solve every problem, but I just think it's interesting because it just shatters this fairy tale. It shatters this idea that we all have our Pan-African interests together and things like that. And that is the rhetoric that I see being pushed quite a lot. is that we're all one people, and that is true. But I think we do need to start having these hard conversations and say, what is it with Black Americans and Africans that just doesn't gel? What is it that means that those two groups of people cannot connect in the way that our rhetoric says they do or should? And where do we start to dismantle the problem? Does it start with conversation? Does it start with explanation? Do we have to spend more time educating the other on our history? Probably is the answer to most of those questions. But where do we start? I think this is another thing that comes back to the golden idea of community and discussion. We need to start talking about these things. We need to start talking about the histories of Black people who come from a group that is other to the group that you're from, whether you're a Black American, whether you're from the Caribbean, whether you're from Africa, and even which region of Africa you're from and what that means and how you view other Black people. Because we have to address the fact that there's a divide. And where do we go from there? So that's my thought. I don't know. What do you think? Where do you think this is coming from? Do you agree with what I'm thinking? Do you disagree with what I'm thinking? I'd love to know. Let me know. You can let me know in a DM or a comment or an email or on the website, www.thediasporaproject.co.uk, TikTok, YouTube, wherever. I'd love to hear how we all think about this issue because I find it quite an interesting one. Anywho, this has been good. Have a good one. Hey, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Diaspora Project podcast. We hope you enjoyed this conversation and you'll stick around for the next one. If you'd like to keep up to date with what we're doing, you can find us on our website, www.thediasporaproject.co.uk, or you can find us on our social media pages. On Instagram, we are at thediaspora.project. TikTok, we are at the Diaspora Project. And on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, we are the Diaspora Project. Thank you again, and we will see you next time.